Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 2 p.m. Sales Espresso Shot webinar series. So glad y'all could make it. Today we're going to be covering ready for refis. All right. Refi market kind of here, kind of not. Depends on what you do, who you ask, what you look at. But you know what? It's going to happen soon. So we've got to get ready for it, right? Before we get started, my name is Skip Wilcox, CEO and founder of Kairos Sales Group. That's me. It matches up again, with the guy that's talking to you. If I'm not connected with you already, please take a second, scan that QR code. Let's connect on social media. You can send me your info, whatever else. I'll be glad to talk to you. And guys, if this is your first time attending, welcome. And please know that our goal today is to give you some actionable tips that you can take with you as soon as this call is over to try and grow your business. All right. And we're going to do it in 15 minutes or less. Now, last week, for those of y'all here that were here last week, did something a little different. I didn't have any slides. I decided to talk to you. You know what? We're going to do a little bit of that today, but I do have some slides today because I want to actually do a kind of a dual part thing here. I want to touch on a little bit of data, and instead of me just spouting it off to you, I want to show it to you, and then we'll move over into kind of the strategy for taking advantage of your refinance customers. All right, so let's dive right into it because it is already 2:02. That means we only got 13 minutes left. All right, let's have a look at this first, guys. Now, oops, the next three slides, all right, they are going to be courtesy of Polygon Research. My friend Val Buresh, she was awesome. She said, "Hey, you know what? I know you're going to talk refis. Let me give you some data." And if y'all are not familiar with Polygon Research, they did not ask me to plug them, but I'm going to do it anyway. So they provide great data. It's invaluable, and this can really help you formulate a strategy, get some real concrete reinforcement behind what you think you're going to be doing. Data, 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 guys, right? It all drives it. So let's look at this first. Rate and term refi interest rate year over year change by loan type. Now, we can see this here, right? 2024 to 2025, July to July. Rates modestly, to say the least, improved, right? With the exception of some of those low to moderate income numbers down there at the bottom, you've got a decent, almost half a point change. Now, what does this tell us? They say, well, Skip, that's not much of a refi market. You'd be correct. Of course, as we all know, rates right now for conventional, depending on your channel of business, your compensation, that kind of thing, around about 6 to 6.5, maybe. Par rates down the fives, but that's not really going to get us anywhere. So we're looking at a little bit better, okay, overall than where we were. Now the thing here that I want to bring some attention to is to help you identify some possibilities. So if we look at that refi now, refi possible, those happen to be a decent amount lower. So what does that tell us? That says, hey, look, we can't just assume every single loan program is going to be the same. Like if it's not a good time to refi conventional, then I'm going to assume it's just not a good time to refi FHA, VA. I'm just not going to bother calling those customers. Well, guess what? You'd be selling yourself short because if that trend continues, then hey, you know what? You may have some opportunity where you didn't think you had it. All right. So the moral of this story is at least look at your pipeline and don't lump everybody into the same basket. All right. Next one, we got this one is actually really interesting to me. We have got a slide here that says this is the borrower shopping index. So essentially, y'all, the yellow line is the likelihood of borrowers shopping you, with the purple bar, of course, being the origination. So what do you want to take away from this? Essentially, the bigger the gap between the purple bar and the yellow line, the more apt they are to shop you. So I'm, of course, Georgia-based. Atlanta happens to have the highest rate of consumer shopping, according to this graph. The second highest behind Dallas. So what does that mean? What does that tell us? All right. Well, this tells us a couple of different things. Very, very important. One is yes, we got our work cut out for us. Two, this does not mean that a competitive rate will get you the deal. You cannot simply lower somebody's rate, or you cannot focus on price alone when you are approaching somebody about a rate and term refi. In fact, having strong competitive pricing, especially in markets like Atlanta, Dallas, several of these, frankly, that's simply to get you in the game, you in the game. That's simply to start the conversation. The real difference, the real way that you're going to get refi market, percentage is going to be by doing things like, awesome customer service, getting great customer experience, all the intangibles, smooth transaction, communication, the things that we consider kind of one-on-one stuff, but it's really something that cannot be overlooked here, right? Because we've got to assume that everybody out there is going to have great, great pricing right now, especially in these markets where that gap is bigger. We cannot afford to get lazy. Cannot afford to get lazy. We've got to say, hey, look, pricing, yeah, pricing is what it is. That's not going to be the difference maker here. We don't want to be any more commoditized than we already are. So we've got to be sure we focus on things that are really more important. Hey, you say, okay, we're gonna move past pricing. Well, what about savings per month? Yeah, that's something. But you know what? If you want to make a big difference, move even past that. What are those savings going to enable and empower your borrowers to do, right? What's that? What kind of gap can those savings fill? Take it beyond just the initial one or two steps to really drill down. I've been through two major refi booms in my career. The very first one in the early 2000s, and of course the COVID boom. Here, guys, I know what it is to sell in an intense refi market. I did it especially as a very young and inexperienced LO. And we cannot afford to be simply stuck with pricing. We got to do our due diligence. We can't get lazy. Can't get lazy, right? Okay. So the next slide. This one's kind of cool. All right, this one's kind of cool. So, defining the market for VA Earls. VA Earls, we don't ever do a ton of these, right? But at the same time, let's look at this. All right, we've got a decent loan size. You've got VA Earls from 2024, 2023, 20, and 2022. So the last 3 years. All right. What is this telling us? It says VA loans originated rates of 7 or higher, primary residence first lien. Again, if we go back to that first slide, we can't lump everybody in together. All right. We still see VA Earls over 7% as recently as last year. Have you called them? Have you talked to these folks? Have you done your due diligence and said, hey, look, you know what? I've got to see if there's opportunities here because I got news for you. If you don't do it, somebody else is going to, right? That is not a novel concept, but it's something that we forget about. And we oftentimes get a little complacent when it comes to refis because they are the lowest hanging fruit, in terms of what we have available to us. So, these types of things cannot be overlooked. We've got to be sure that we are aware of the numbers, aware of our markets, what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are. We've got to be sure that we are examining every single possible loan type whenever it comes to refinances. All right. So that's the last slide I had for you. But what I want to do next is really give you just a real basic and essential 4 steps to utilizing, or excuse me, to tapping into your potential refi market. All right. So, and this is not going to be marketing outward for outside refis. When I'm talking about these 4 steps, this is going to be purely from your closed pipeline. Okay. So, step one, you actually have to look at your database, right? You got to actually look at your database. You'd think that would be something that's a foregone conclusion, but I've done a ton of trainings, even in the last, 8 to 10 months, where for some reason LOs are just resistant. They assume that there's just nothing there yet. It's like, oh, rates really aren't where they need to be. Well, pull up your database. All right. Second step, sort it high to low. That way you know where the pricing is. You can even sub-sort it into, going back to our previous slides and this one, into loan type. There may be opportunities there. All right. Step three, run some very soft numbers. And the reason for that, you don't want to spend a ton of time going through the ins and outs and actually getting real firm refi numbers. Obviously, we wouldn't take it as far as doing an LE or anything, but be sure that you're running some very, very soft numbers. Round about where pricing is now, assuming all things are at least remotely the same as they were when they worked with you previously. You kind of have an idea, so you can kind of compare. And the reason you're going to do that is because of step number four. And that is that you're going to schedule what amounts to a mortgage checkup with your previous closed loan customers. That conversation is going to be something that is going to be quick. You're probably going to be able to finish those checkups in 15 minutes or less. And you know what? Even if they don't benefit from a rate and term refi, if you ask the right questions, you conduct that interview properly, then you may even uncover some more opportunities. There could even be cash out opportunities there, second mortgage opportunities. And if nothing else, even if there's nothing there other than you pick up that phone and calling them, then you still stayed top of mind because folks are going to get inundated with people trying to get their business. We just saw the big merger that was announced a while back. Mr. Cooper and Rocket Companies, that has actually been finalized. I've got friends that work for both of them that are hard at work making those two mesh together. We're seeing consolidation of that kind of thing left and right, tapping into those servicing portfolios, and we've got to be sure that as originators, we're taking the necessary steps to be sure that we can remain top of mind with those customers. All right, guys, it's 2:12. That's all I had, but I want to go the four steps. Pull your database, sort it, high to low, loan type, that kind of thing. Run some basic soft numbers for everybody so that when you're calling to schedule that meeting, you say, hey, look, Mr. Smith, I might be able to save you $250 a month or so because of the way the market is now. Let's schedule a mortgage checkup call, Thursday at 2, take 15 minutes, and let's see if it's worth it. If it is, hey, that's awesome. If not, at least you know kind of where the market is and how it could affect you. All right. So schedule them out. Next week, we're going to be covering a new topic, something completely different. But I hope you enjoyed this one. And as always, guys, if you need anything, let me know. Be glad to help you out. Hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday.